The first words I said in the hospital were a lie. A lie I'd rehearsed for weeks because I needed to know which member of my family would betray me first if I made it easy. I woke to white light, a plastic bracelet pinching my wrist, the patient beep of a heart monitor counting out seconds I couldn't afford to waste. The nurse leaned in, kind eyes, chapstick shine on her lip. "Can you tell me your name?" I let my pupils go soft, let the fear tremble just enough in my voice. I don't know. Guilt pricked under my ribs fast, sharp, then vanished. I wasn't here for clean feelings. I was here for proof. They called my mother first. Linda Carson, the woman who apologizes to furniture when she bumps into it. She rushed in on a tide of perfume and panic, pressed both hands to her mouth and folded over me, whispering, "Baby, it's okay, I'm here." Her tears were hot on my neck. I could have told her the truth right then, could have said, "Mom, this is a test," but I didn't. I needed to see what people do when the guardrails are down. My dad Robert came next. He's the kind of quiet that makes rooms feel steadier. He stood at the foot of the bed, nodded once like a promise, and squeezed my foot under the blanket as if to check I hadn't slipped into the dark while he blinked. "We'll figure it out," he said. No drama, just the sentence. 10 minutes later, my brother Mark breezed in wearing a designer hoodie like a name tag. His eyes bounced off me and scanned the room instead. Purse, phone, plastic bag of personal items like he was cataloging a museum exhibit. Sophie arrived last. She carried flowers and a smile that belonged on a billboard. When she took my hand in both of hers, it felt too staged, like a politician kissing a baby for the cameras. I looked from face to face and asked, "Do I know you?" I asked where we were. I asked softly, almost to myself, if I had a home. Mom's grief was unfiltered and real. Dad's silence felt complicated. Mark's sympathy didn't survive the minute. 20 seconds in, he was already asking the nurse about personal items recovered from the patient. Sophie sat on the edge of the bed, brushed hair from my forehead, and talked in a syrupy tone about how strong I was, how I'd always been the brave one. It sounded like a script she'd practiced on the drive over. "My name is Emily. I'm 32. I rent a small condo on the south side, and for the last year I've felt watched in my own life. A package slid open before I got home, an email missing, keys not where I left them, then a $300 charge on my debit card for shoes I couldn't wear even for a costume party. Must have been fraud," Mark said, already dialing the bank like a hero. A week later, Sophie floated. The idea that she should organize my passwords because she's good at that stuff. On paper, it sounds paranoid. In your bones, it doesn't. Your bones know. So I staged a small accident, nobody hurt, nothing dramatic, a timed fender bender, a tow from my friend Tyler, an ER visit where I was alone and dazed on the sidewalk just long enough to sell it. The scans were clear, mild concussion. The doctor gave me a term I could hide behind. Post-traumatic amnesia, plausible, forgiving, the perfect mask. The first hour was theater. Mom told Christmas stories and bad haircut stories like talismans against what she was afraid of. Dad asked practical questions. How long? What triggers? What to avoid? Mark hovered near my things, voice bright, eyes measuring. Sophie narrated the greatest hits of us, a highlight reel where she always played the savior. Every sentence made me feel smaller on purpose. That night, I pretended to sleep, eyes closed, breath even. The hallway hummed with AC. Paper rustled. A pen clicked. "We'll bring her home," Mom whispered. "For now," Dad said. "We need a plan." Then Sophie's voice, sweet, careful, slipped under the door. "If she doesn't remember her accounts, who's handling her bills?" Silence held its breath. Mark filled it too fast. "I can help with that." The next day, I moved into my parents' guest room. Mom had washed the sheets in lavender and put a glass of water on the nightstand like a blessing. Sophie arrived with a scrapbooking kit and a cheap instant camera. "Memory bridges," she chirped. Mark showed up with groceries he left on the counter, then drifted through the house like he'd lost something important and wanted to find it while no one was looking. On the third morning, I remembered how to unlock the hospital's loaner phone. Tyler had texted in the middle of the night, a photo, my condo door, a man in a baseball cap, a tool bag hanging heavy from his fist. The caption said, "Locksmith, your brother." Timestamp 9:42 p.m. The coffee in my stomach went sour. At breakfast, I asked, Do I live somewhere? Mom stopped buttering toast. Yes, sweetie, your condo. Sophie jumped in, bright and quick. But the doctor said stability is best, so maybe stay here a bit, just until we get your meds sorted. Do I have a car? I asked. Mark leaned back. Casual, probably totaled. We should sell what's left to cover hospital bills. He said it like he was protecting me from math. The car was fine. Tyler had it tucked behind his shop like a dog he knew I'd come back for. By noon, Sophie had arranged a memory box on the coffee table photos, notes, trinkets. Half were mine. Half were nudges, tiny printed reminders about how I'd always been bad with money, how my siblings had stepped in to keep my life together. She patted my hand and said, "We've always had to help you." I let my lip tremble. "You must love me a lot." "Of course," she said, teeth perfect. I needed something louder than vibes. I left the loaner phone unlocked on the counter with a fake bank email open. Tyler had built it from a burner that looked close enough to double-take. Reset your password with one click. I took a long shower. 10 minutes later, the email showed a fresh last opened time. When I came out, Mark was scrolling with a neutral face he doesn't wear as well as he thinks. He locked the screen too fast. "Bills," he said, shrugging. That afternoon, Mom drove me to a neurologist. Small talk, waiting room, glossy magazines no one reads. I did the foggy act, the cautious smile. Avoid big decisions, the doctor said. Keep stress low. We stepped back into daylight and into Sophie in the driveway, poised beside a man in a suit like a magician with her rabbit. "This is Greg," she said. "He's a lawyer. Just some temporary papers so I can help manage your accounts. Protection, you know?" I asked to read them. Power of attorney until further notice. I traced the lines with a finger I made sure trembled. "I'm scared," I said. "That's why I'm here," she said, and touched my cheek like she was blessing me. That night, on the edge of the guest bed, I cried into my palms. Some of it was for show, some of it wasn't. It's one thing to suspect, it's another to watch your own family circling the idea that you might be edible. I called Tyler. "Tomorrow," I said. Everything. He already had it. Photos of the locksmith. A still from my building's hallway camera with Mark's baseball cap pulled low. A log of the burner email opening on the loaner phone. The car washed and idling, ready to roll. He even had a friend prepped to pose as a bank rep on speaker if I needed a final push. "You sure?" he asked. "I'm sure." Dawn came like it always does, unimpressed. I made oatmeal. I asked Mom to tell me a childhood story. She told me about the beach trip where I ate sand because I thought it was brown sugar. I laughed on cue. Dad left for work. Sophie texted, a little bubble that said, "Paperwork?" Mark arrived with coffee, grinning like a cat that knows where the cream is kept. "I want everyone here," I said. The doctor said my memory works better when the people I love are in the room. I saw Mom's shoulders relax in relief. She called Dad. "Sophie, 20 minutes. Mark, perfect." While we waited, I asked Mark to tell the bike story his favorite, where he gets to be the hero teaching me to ride. He thumped the couch arm for emphasis, acted out the wobble, shouted, "Pedal, pedal," in his own memory. He didn't look at my face once. He didn't notice I'd asked for 5 minutes of gentleness to see if he could manage it before asking me for a password. He couldn't. "Speaking of pedals," he said, "the car if we sell." The doorbell cut him off. Everyone came in at once, a gust of family. Sophie with her leather folder, Greg hovering behind her, pen ready. Dad went to the window like he was reading the weather. Mom took my hand so hard it hurt. "I think I remember something," I said. The room leaned in. I let the quiet grow until it had a shape. "Keys," I said softly. "A lockpick. My brother telling a locksmith he lost his lease." Mark's smile broke in pieces. "That's—" Sophie's face flickered, shock, concern, calculation, then smoothed. "Sometimes the brain fills in blanks," she said, gentle. "I remember an email," I said. "I remember my phone lighting up after I left the room. I remember my brother insisting we sell my car for hospital bills. Insurance already covers." "That's not," Mark started. "And I remember you," I said to Sophie, using a doctor's words you weren't there to hear to push a power of attorney over an adult who doesn't want it. "It's for your safety," she said, voice warm enough to pour on pancakes. "I remember I'm not helpless," I said, "and I'm done pretending I don't see what you're doing." I opened the front door. Tyler stepped in, neat as a stage cue, and laid a folder on the coffee table. He slid out photos and printouts. The locksmith at my building with a timestamp, the hallway still of Mark's baseball cap at 9:50 p.m. The email log showing the reset page opened at 10:12 a.m. yesterday. A copy of Greg's power of attorney draft stamped with the same day as my neurologist visit. Each page clicked like a domino, Mark flushed from collar to hairline. Are you spying on me now? You tried to break into my home, I said. Sophie didn't cry. She never cries first. She set a hand on her chest and looked at Mom. I was trying to help, she said, with the weary patience of a saint who feeds a village that keeps biting her. Dad turned from the window. Explain, he said. One word, heavy. Mark stepped forward. She's not well. She doesn't remember. We were just. He gestured to everything and nothing. Mom made a soft sound and gripped my fingers. I didn't pull away. I didn't squeeze back. I remember enough, I said. This last year, little digs about how I always need help. The gaslighting, the inventory checks. I prayed I was paranoid, so I gave you an easy test. And you failed it faster than I imagined. Sophie's eyes cooled a degree. What do you want, Emily? Do you want us to beg? Leave? Do you need a grand scene so you can be the noble victim? I can play any part you need. What I want is simple, I said. Sign a statement you won't attempt to access my home, my accounts, or my mail. Acknowledge that power of attorney is off the table, and stop calling what you do helps when it's theft with manners. That's insane, Mark said. That's reasonable, Dad said, almost at the same time. Sophie looked at him like he'd dropped a snake at her feet. You're taking her side? I'm taking the side of not committing crimes, Dad said. And the steel finally showed. And the side of not treating your sister like a problem to be solved. Tyler slid 2 printed statements and a pen onto the table. Sophie stared at them like they were beneath her. Mark muttered a curse under his breath. Sophie signed first. Efficient, like she was signing for a package she didn't order. There, she said. Satisfied? Mark took longer and carved his name into the paper like a threat. Happy now? No, I said, but safer. They left in a gust of wounded dignity. The door clicked. The house suddenly felt bigger and smaller at once. Mom cried into a dish towel at the sink. Dad sat down slowly, like his knees remembered every year he'd lived. Tyler exhaled. You okay? No, I said, but I will be. And I meant it. The next 2 weeks were small brickwork, one careful layer at a time. New locks, new passwords, new bank one none of them used. I had my mail held at the post office and picked it up in person. Tyler installed a camera that pinged my phone if anyone breathed near my door. I told my landlord that if anyone asked about me, including family, he should call the police. Mom called every day at first. Sometimes she just breathed and said my name. Sometimes she cooked and told me dinner would be at 6 if you feel like joining us. Sometimes she apologized, like it was a spell that could rewind tape. I went once. Pot roast. We talked about the weather like it had personally wronged us. No one said locksmith, power of attorney, or betrayal. After dessert, Mom washed the same plate for 5 minutes like she might scrub the month off of it. Dad walked me to my car and said, I'm proud of you for protecting yourself. It landed in me like a warm stone. Mark texted twice. We good? And then didn't think you'd take it that far. I didn't answer either. Sophie emailed me an award-worthy performance, measured, sincere, full of corporate words like family culture and miscommunications around intent, and ended with a quiet blade. If you insist on casting me as a villain, I can't keep protecting you from yourself. I archived it without replying. Days blurred. Sleep came back in uneven patches. Then, at the pharmacy, I heard a laugh behind me ringing, and just a touch too bright. Sophie. I felt my scalp prickle but kept my face forward. She stepped beside me like we were sisters in a rom-com. You look good, she said. Memory working? Perfectly, I said. She touched my sleeve. You did get one thing wrong, she murmured. I turned. Just one? She leaned close enough that her perfume clouded my thought. It wasn't who would betray you first, she said, smiling without warmth. It was who you would choose to notice. You picked me, but if I hadn't moved fast, Mark would have gutted your accounts like a fish. I stopped him twice before you ever saw it. You're welcome. It is possible for someone you can't trust to tell you the truth. I thought about her speed, her papers, the way every road had to run through her. Was it protection? Or a guarantee that if anyone cashed out on my life, it would be her? Maybe both. Maybe that's worse. Don't ever touch my life again, I said. She smiled like she'd won a prize. See you at Christmas. Then she walked away, heels ticking out a countdown. That night, I sat on my couch in the dark and let my condo hold me. The quiet sounded like water finally settling in pipes after a long winter. I opened the voice memo app and recorded a message to myself for the nights I knew would come the weak ones. You are not crazy, I said into the phone. They did what they did when it was easy. Believe the evidence. Weeks rolled. My memory, real and pretend, felt sharp as broken glass. One afternoon, my doorbell rang. Dad stood there with his hat in his hands, shoulders squared like a man about to apologize for a war he didn't start. I let him in. He sat on the edge of a chair, both feet planted, palms flat on his knees. Your mother wants to see you, he said. She doesn't know how. I know, I said. I told your brother to stay away, he said. He looked me in the eye. I told your sister the same. How'd that go? He made a sound that could have been a laugh. We'll see. He paused. I can't fix what they are. I can help what I am. If you need anything, locks, a ride, a witness, you call me. I believed him. Not because the words were perfect, because he said them here out loud where they had to stand up. I didn't reconcile with Mark. I didn't stage a dramatic showdown with Sophie at Christmas. I did something smaller and harder. I kept going. I learned that love without boundaries is just access. I learned that peace built on me disappearing isn't peace. It's silence. I learned that the easiest role I'd ever played, the easy one, was killing me. I still have the folder Tyler made. It lives at the bottom of a drawer with manuals for appliances I don't own anymore. I don't need it. The proof I carry now is quieter and heavier. It's in the way I check a door twice without apologizing. It's in the way I tell Mom I love her and then hang up when she starts to bargain. It's in the empty space where I keep the trust I used to hand out like coupons. A month after the reveal, I drove past my parents' house. The curtains twitched like nervous eyes. Mom came out holding a dish towel like she needed something to do with her hands. I parked. She walked down 2 steps and stopped. Dinner? She asked. Maybe another time, I said. Walk? We walked the length of the block and back. She told me about the neighbor's new dog. I told her about the plant I keep forgetting to water. We didn't say locksmith or power of attorney or betrayal. At the gate, she touched my arm. You are my daughter, she said, even when I don't understand you. I know, I said, even when you don't stop them. She flinched like I tapped a bruise and nodded, eyes wet. I'll try harder. Not a promise. An attempt. Sometimes that's all you get. When I got home, I stood just inside my doorway and listened to the quiet. No machines, no whispers, just the sound of my own breath steady. I locked the door once, twice because I could, because I choose to. Then I made a list of 3 people I trust. It was shorter than I wanted and truer than I liked. I texted each one. I'm rebuilding my life. Coffee? They said yes. I let them help in small ways that matter. I set up automatic bill pay only I can change. I kept my circle small and my sense of humor sharp. I started telling the story out loud, not for revenge, but for clarity. When you say it, it becomes real. When it's real, you can stop arguing with it. I didn't fake amnesia to trap my family. I faked amnesia to stop trapping myself in their stories about me to see what the light's on, to answer the question that had been eating me alive. If I disappeared, would they protect what mattered to me or pocket it while the room was dark? Now I know, and the scariest part isn't losing your memory. It's remembering exactly who your family really is, and deciding your future doesn't have to be written by their worst selves. If you've stayed with me this long, thank you. If you're listening and thinking, my family would never, I hope you're right. I hope you never have to test it. But if you feel that itch under your skin that says something is off, trust it. Lock the door. Keep the keys. And when someone calls your boundaries cruel, remember, love with boundaries is still love. It's just love that finally includes you.